All right, the meeting is called to order. Good evening and welcome to your City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, November 17, 2020, and it is 6 p.m. In an effort to minimize the spread of COVID-19, Governor Newsom issued an executive order that temporarily suspends requirements of the Brown Act. Given the executive order, the Laguna Niguel City Council chambers are closed to the public until further notice. Members of the public are strongly encouraged to observe the City Council meeting live online via YouTube live streaming that can be accessed on the city website. Members of the public may submit comments on any agenda item or any item not on the agenda by the email to the city clerk at egomez@cityoflagunaniguel.org. All comments are received prior to the discussion of the agenda item will be read into the record to the time limit of 3 minutes. Any portion of the comment not read aloud due to this time restrictions will still be included in the written record. The City of Laguna Niguel thanks you in advance for all precautions to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Madam City Clerk Gomez, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem
I was
Minicar.
running to get here,
Did a
so.
wonderful job considering. Councilmember Rains,
Present.
Councilmember Jennings,
Here.
Councilmember Genoway,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Minigar,
Present.
and Mayor Davies will not be in attendance this evening, and we do have a quorum.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. This is the public communications portion of the agenda for the closed session only. Public communications for the public portion of this City Council meeting will begin at 7 p.m. City Clerk Gomez, are there any public comments for the closed session only?
No, Mayor Pro Tem.
Very good. The public communications is now closed. At this time, I would like to ask our City Attorney Enos to read us into closed session, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. You have one item of closed session. It's public employee performance evaluation under Government Code Section 54957 of the position of City Attorney. That concludes my announcement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now recess to the closed session. is called back to order. City Manager Letourneau, is any reportable action from the closed session meeting?
There's no reportable action.
Thank you very much. Madam City Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Rains,
Present.
Councilmember Jennings,
Here.
Councilmember Genoway,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Menninger,
Present.
and Mayor Davies is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this juncture, I would like to ask Councilmember Sandy Rains, Councilmember John Mark Jennings to do the invocation, followed by Councilmember Sandy Rains to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you would please rise. Father, we thank you for the gift of public service. We thank you for the kindness and the generosity of spirit that lives in our city. And we ask for that blessing for our friends in Orange County, in California, and across this great nation. Be with us tonight as we make decisions that affect our friends, our neighbors, and our city, and give us guidance and direction. We ask all these in your name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, we have one public comment. The comment is from Mr. Phil Pincus. Actually, before,
That's what, for one of the specific items, that consent items?
we have two, but this is not for a consent item. This is for general public comment.
Very good.
The purpose of this communication is to express my condemnation of a flyer. Please see the attachments. Paid for by the Republican Party of Orange County regarding the candidates for the Laguna Niguel City Council. To provide context for this memo, I'm a longtime registered Republican and spent over 20 years in the Marine Corps. I am rarely confused as liberal in my views. However, there are lines of integrity and decency that should never be crossed, and unfortunately, these lines have all but disappeared in our world of politics, even at the level of a city council election. My specific focus is on the flyer mentioned in the opening. The flyer segregates the candidates by political party. On the front side of the flyer, only professional photos are provided of 3 Republican candidates. There is no wording regarding views or qualifications for these candidates. On the back side of the flyer, unflattering photos are provided of 2 Democratic candidates. There are also 4 photos of graphic violence in our streets and an accompanying narrative connecting these 2 Democratic candidates with the following. They support radical leftist protesters. They agree with the labeling the residents of Laguna Niguel and their elected leaders as racists, and they demand that our city defund the police. These inferences are detestable in both their inaccuracy and their assault on the reputation of these candidates. I happen to be a next-door neighbor to Stephanie Otto, one of the 2 Democrats attacked in the flyer. I know Stephanie to be a person of the highest character, integrity, and having a genuine interest and skill in improving our community. Based on conversations across our driveways, I also know that she is in no way supportive of the view that the flyer implied. I voted for Stephanie for the city council based on what type of person she is and knowing how she would conduct herself as an elected official, not on what political party she is registered with. To the Republican Party of Orange County, your actions in this flyer are shameful. They are clearly and intentionally misleading and therefore dishonest. I don't know the legalities of such matters, but even if this flyer is not technically illegal, it is morally wrong. And for the silent majority in this country, which is comprised of both political parties, flyers like this only make the majority of voters distrust party leadership, not the candidates you are defaming. I sincerely hope that the Republican Party of Orange County will take an honest look at how this flyer came to be and make corrections so that this will not happen again. And of equal importance, you need to conduct yourself in a way that is deserving of the support of the voters. Respectfully, Phil Pincus. And that's the only comment.
Thank you very much. The public comments section is closed. Tonight, the only presentation we have is the proclamation declaring November 28, 2020 as Small Business Saturday. And this item was brought to us by Mayor Lori Davis, that happens to be in Sacramento as a part of her new position to be sworn in. So I would like to ask one of my colleagues, Councilmember John Mark Jennings, while he's holding the proclamation, then I read the text of the proclamation. Whereas the city of Laguna Niguel, California celebrates our local small businesses and contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently 31.7 million small businesses in the US. They represent 99.9% of all businesses with employees in the US, and were responsible for 1.8 million net new jobs in 2019. And whereas small businesses employ 47.3% of the employees in the private sector in the US, and whereas 97% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that small businesses are essential to their community, and whereas 95% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday reported the day makes them want to shop and or eat at small, independently owned businesses all year long, not just during the holiday season. And whereas 73% of consumers who reportedly shopped small at independently owned retailers and restaurants on Small Business Saturday did so with friends and or family. And whereas 96% of respondents who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that shopping at small, independently owned businesses supports their commitment to making purchases that have a positive social, economic, and environmental impact. And whereas Laguna Niguel, California supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, on behalf of Mayor Lori Davis, on behalf of the Laguna Niguel City Council, do hereby declare November 28, 2020 as Small Business Saturday, and urge the residents of Laguna Niguel and residents of communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And this would conclude our only public presentation. Now, moving on to public communications. Madam City Clerk.
I have two comments for the consent calendar. I can read them. One of them is for item number 9, and the other one is for item number 13. So if you want to go ahead and move forward with the consent
Before
calendar.
we proceed with that, let's see on the consent calendar items 1 through 13. Let me ask all my colleagues if they have any items that they wanted to pull out for discussions. Councilmember Elaine Genoway,
Okay, I'd like to pull item 13 for comment.
13. Councilmember Rains,
I'd like to pull item 7 for comment.
7 by Councilmember Sandy Rains and Councilmember John Moore Jennings.
I have none.
None. Do I have a motion to move?
I move to approve.
All right. Do I have a second on
Second.
that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It was moved, approved 4-0 with the abstention of Mayor Lori Davis.
Thank you.
All right, now we go to item number 7, Councilmember Sandy Rains.
Yeah, I pulled this for comment because I know that with COVID, it's been a little bit of delay in our community with different things being accomplished. However, we do have the Miguel Road pavement rehabilitation that starts at Highlands and goes to Marina Hills. that we're approving to get started on. And one of the things that I wanted to mention is that our staff does a great job with making sure that we take access to all of the funding that's available to us from the state and from gas tax money. And so this will be all covered through that instead of through our own budget. So I just wanted to thank you for your hard diligence and paying attention, and look forward to having that work done. So with that, I'll move the item.
Any discussions on item number 7 before we make a vote on it? All right, so it was moved by
Yeah.
Councilmember Sandy Raines, and it was seconded by Councilmember Elaine Genoway. All in favor, say aye.
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 Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, just to be clear, was one of the comments related to item 7? No. The
No,
comments are related to items what?
9 and 13.
9 and 13.
All right, and you pulled items 13 and 7. Okay, so we'll have a comment on 13 before you act. Okay.
Yes.
But may I ask a question to the city attorney? Do we need to read all of them into the record just so they're in the record? even though
Yes,
the
we
vote already took
should.
place?
That's our
Yes.
rule, and I think
Yes.
we should definitely read 9 as well, and then 13.
Well, just for clarification, since I made the motion to approve the consent calendar, my motion did not include any that had been pulled by the public for public comment. So I do not deem at the moment item number 9 to have been passed. We
Okay.
need to read the public comment.
Very
and
good.
We'll make a motion if appropriate
Thank you.
afterwards.
Yes.
So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Very good. All right, so.
So I think I interrupted the motion and there was a vote taken on that motion. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, so we're done with item number 7 now. Item number 9. Madam Clerk.
Item number 9 is a comment from Patrick Mahoney. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Patrick Mahoney, and I am the founder and president of West Coast Arborists, Inc. I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to the members of the City Council, city staff, and the community of Laguna Niguel for the nearly 20 years of working together to accomplish one goal: to maintain the integrity, health, and preservation of the city's urban forest. We competed in the recent bid process, and although we gave it our best effort to try and maintain our successful business relationship, we were not chosen as a successful bidder. We hate the thought of parting ways with the city, but we understand that you have a fiscal responsibility to the citizens of Laguna Niguel. We have complete respect for you, your staff, and the community, and we wish you all the best in the future. Thank you for the opportunity to work with you for so many years and for the opportunity to submit the recent proposal. If there is ever a need for our services, please know that we are just a phone call away. Gratefully, Patrick Mahoney.
Thank you very much. The public comment section is closed. I do have a quick question for Public Works Director Sandy Scott. The contract was based upon, the selection was based upon the responsive and responsible contractor, correct?
Mayor Pro Tem Miniger, yes, that is correct. Additionally, staff contacted some adjacent cities that are doing work with the recommended vendor, and they're very satisfied with the quality of the work.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Make a motion to
Councilmember
approve.
John Mark Jennings.
I'll
Chairman.
second.
All right, it was moved by Councilmember John Mark Jennings, seconded by Councilmember Sandy Raines. All in favor?
Aye.
It's moved and approved 4-0, and Mayor Lori Davies is absent on this item. Okay, moving on to item number 13.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Davies and I asked that this resolution be placed on the agenda, and the resolution is expressing support for actions to further strengthen local control, democracy, and authority as related to local housing, zoning, and land use issues. So I just want to draw this to the attention of our residents that these are values that the City Council has upheld year after year. And these are very important values for Laguna Niguel. When we talk about local control, that means that the locally elected officials, your City Council, can make the decisions in land use and zoning and housing in our city, that it is not someone else making those decisions. So it is very important that we continue to strive and emphasize the necessity for local control. And that is something that I know I've committed myself to, as some of my other colleagues have. When we talk about unfunded mandates, that's another governmental entity, say the state or federal, telling the city you have to do something. It's going to cost you money, but we're not giving you any money to implement it. So that is a burden to our local taxpayers. So these are, I want to point out these values of our city, and we will continue to uphold them and continue to express support for local control and do whatever we can. So I just want to draw our residents' attention to that so they know what we're talking about when we keep saying local control. You've elected us to make the decisions for our city, and that's what local control is all about. So with that, I move the motion.
I had just one comment before we, I might not get another chance to talk about local control before I leave the council, so let me chime in on it. I would say that without question, the number one issue that has faced our city over the last 4 years while I've been doing it, on the 4 before that on the Planning Commission, is the lack of Sacramento giving us the ability to control our own destiny. I've said so many times that California believes, at least at the state level, that there's a one-size-fits-all solution to every problem that the cities just have to live with. We're going to talk about one of those in just a second. But they're wrong in that regard. I truly think that Laguna Niguel gets it right. And I'm willing to concede, by the way, that many cities don't. And I think that it is those cities that Sacramento believes that they're legislating around, so that they have some control over what they might deem to be rogue positions. We don't have that problem, but what we do have is enough money to cover all of this where many cities don't. And when Sacramento gives you an unfunded mandate like they always do, that means that they're telling you to go spend a bunch of money that they're not willing to support themselves. And so I think that's bad governance. I think there's incentive basis on that. And you're exactly right, Councilman Genoway, that this is the one thing that if we could wave a magic wand and just get our friends in Sacramento to understand us, that we are closest to the voters. We are held the most accountable. And frankly, we can give Sacramento cover on this because we get to make those tough decisions and they don't have to. But they should leave that to us. And I think the statement of support for that local control is right-headed, and I appreciate you all putting it on the agenda. So with that, I would second your motion.
Before we proceed with the final vote on this item, I just wanted to make sure that the public comment is heard.
Yes. This comment is from Aaron Black. My name is Aaron Black, and I'm a law student at UC Irvine. I am writing to submit comment for agenda item number 13 regarding the city's resolution to support strengthening local control as related to local housing, zoning, and land use issues. I hope that the city's wishes to strengthen local control of housing indicate a desire to focus on meaningful solutions to homelessness. Homelessness is a pervasive issue throughout California, and it's only gotten worse during this pandemic, as many tenants have experienced sudden income loss and illness, making them more vulnerable to eviction. As a community member, I hope to see Laguna Niguel make more efforts to address the housing and homelessness crisis by building more affordable housing and homeless shelters in the city. Regardless of state laws and mandates, unless all cities work together to meaningfully address the root causes of homelessness, this issue is not going away. I would love to see what creative and effective strategies Laguna Niguel as a locality can come up with to be part of the solution and better serve our most vulnerable community members. Thank you, Aaron Black.
And that's the last public comment we have on this item.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Councilmember John Mark Jennings.
Yeah, thank you. I would have made this comment beforehand if I'd known what he was going to say. I want to make sure that everyone understands that there's a little piece of what he said is true, but Laguna Niguel does something that many, many other cities haven't. We are the leader in homelessness task force in Orange County. We not only were one of the founding members of the Orange County Housing Finance Trust, which was created solely for the purpose of doing exactly what he asked for, which is a regional solution using local and state-based dollars to leverage permanent supportive housing. And we're the leaders on that. I've chaired that the only 2 years it's been in existence. I've been the chair of that. And we have done more than $25 million in acquisitions. And but for COVID, we were on schedule to do hundreds of millions of dollars worth of funds from both the state government and local government. And we've already created close to 1,000 permanent supportive housing units just in the short 2 years. That narrative needs to leave itself, especially with respect to Laguna Niguel, because we are doing something. And I would challenge you that the other cities that are not part of that are not doing something. And the bigger cities in California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego need to get their act together, because they're the ones that are creating this issue, which is bleeding off into the rest of our counties, because we've got it right. We are the front of the line for state and federal dollars. Orange County is the front of the line because we created something that previously did not exist solely to fix this problem. So I appreciate the comment. I think if he's in law school, there's a little bit more research that needs to be done on that issue, and I'm happy to talk to him about it if he wants to. So thank you for the comment, though, sir.
Thank you for your
I just-
comments. Councilmember Sandy Rains.
Speaking on the homelessness, I think Laguna Niguel has done an excellent job on our prevention model, and we do work really hard with our residents to make sure we prevent them from becoming homeless. So with that, the fact that we have local control to be able to do that, to allocate money, we just recently allocated almost $100,000 of our CARE Act's money to agencies that we partner with here to prevent homelessness. So we are being actively involved in doing that. And because we have that local control to do that, we were able to make those decisions. Sacramento was telling us how to do that. We couldn't have probably done some of those things. So I commend my colleagues and our city staff for working diligently to make sure we're preventing homelessness here and that we're fighting to keep our local control.
Very good. It was moved and it was by Councilmember Elaine Genoway, and it was seconded by Councilmember John Mark Jennings. All in favor, say aye.
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 It is moved 4-0 with Mayor Lori Davis being absent. Very good. At this juncture, we're moving to the first public hearing. Our next item is a public hearing for adoption of vehicle miles traveled thresholds of significance within the city transportation assessment guidelines for purpose of analyzing transportation impacts under the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA, as required by Senate Bill 743. Community Development Director Orduna, please provide a staff report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Very briefly, I would like to introduce to you the newest member of our community development team, Senior Planner Erica Race. Erica comes to us from our neighboring city of Aliso Viejo, bringing a wealth of urban planning experience, and she has run point for the city on this item and will be providing the staff report this evening.
All right. Thank you, Jonathan. On September 27, 2013, Senate Bill 743 was signed into California state law to develop alternative criteria for measuring transportation impacts. In December 2013, preliminary guidelines were published, and it was determined that the focus of analysis would shift from driver delay to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, the creation of multimodal networks, and the promotion of mix of land uses. In August of 2014, OPR then recommended vehicle miles traveled should replace level of service analysis as the primary measurement of transportation impacts. In November 2017, final CEQA guidelines were published and were significantly revised to reflect the state's new focus. In December 2018, as an implementing action of SB 73, OPR provided technical guidance to assist local jurisdiction. And then finally, on July 1st, approximately 7 years following the date that SB 743 was signed into law, lead agencies such as the City of Laguna Niguel are now required to modify their methodology for analyzing transportation impacts as it relates to CEQA. To conform to SB 743, a local agency doesn't necessarily have to establish its own thresholds and guidelines, and could instead direct project applicants to rely on the state's guidance or other methodologies. But if we did this, it wouldn't be tailored to the local and regional character, doesn't account for the city processes. It could lead to uncertainty among city staff, and there are potential legal challenges to CEQA determinations. So for those reasons, city staff, as well as the consultant we work with, Iteris, have developed draft thresholds required as part of SB 743, and guidelines. And so these guidelines are composed of two components. The first is the VMT analysis, what we're talking about for CEQA. But then the second part is really just for level of service. It's memorializing what the City of Laguna Niguel has utilized thus far. And this is talking about ensuring projects meet city requirements for parking or access or intersections. So when you look at both VMT and level of service, there are fairly significant differences between the two. And so for the first comparison, when you're looking at impacts, for level of service, you're really looking at impacts to road operations. But for VMT, it's talking about GHG emissions. When we're talking about measurement, we're measuring congestion for level of service. But for VMT, we're talking about the trip length. The time period for LOS is based on peak hour. VMT, it's daily. The primary influence for level of service analysis is roadway networks, and for VMT, it's land use. Impacts are local on level of service, but regional for VMT. And mitigation is related to vehicles for level of service analysis, but it's for VMT, it's non-vehicle, so walking or biking. And then for this last item, I would say as a planner, this was most surprising to me, is that when you increase the size of a project, it amplifies the impact with level of service. But with VMT, it's the same impact, even if you make the project larger. So when you're looking at VMT analysis, one of the first steps you do is determine if potentially it could be screened out, if a project could be just made exempt, so you wouldn't have to do anything further. And this is where staff, we worked through developing these screening methodologies for projects. And so this first one, it's talking about small projects. And we've defined small projects to be one that has 500 trips or less a day. And this roughly equates to an average 60-unit residential development, as well as a 51,000 office development. So those developments could be screened out and not have to move past. The next item we have for screening is redevelopment. And in this context, redevelopment really is talking about replacement. And so we're looking at project trips generated by the new development minus what was already there would then be your VMT. Our third screening methodology is if it's located in a low VMT areas. And on the graphic to the right, in blue, are the low VMT areas. And this was determined by modeling to say that these can be screened out. Next one is transit priority area, also shown in our graphic, and that is shown in the green. And what that's saying is that within a half-mile radius of the Laguna Niguel Metrolink station, those any projects within that area would be exempt. Our fifth item, locally serving projects, is talking about any local retail that's less than 50,000 square feet would be considered exempt. And then we'd also have any community servicing projects such as libraries or gas stations or fire stations, those would be exempt. Affordable housing, so 100% affordable housing development would be exempt. And then the individual affordable units within a market rate development would also be exempt. And then for this last one, when we talk about certain transportation projects, is the state gave us a total of 19 transportation projects that would be considered less than significant. So we've included those in our guidelines. And then we also added a provision that for projects, transportation projects that consist of adding additional lanes or turn lanes or other capacity, those could also be exempt as long as they are less than 1 mile in length and also conform to our general plan. But if we can't screen out a project, then we're looking at having to do the analysis. And with this analysis, the tool that we use is called the Orange County Transportation Analysis Model, or OCTAM. And this is derived by a model that SCAG created. These computer models are updated every 4 years. And what we found as part of doing this analysis is that the average VMT per capita for residents living in Laguna Niguel is almost 40% higher than Orange County as a whole. And this is reflective of our relatively housing-rich, higher income area with limited public transport opportunities. And so because of that, Terrace and staff, we recommending that the city baseline, as opposed to a county or SCAG region baseline, be used for determining VMT. And this is also consistent with other cities in our similar demographics, such as the city of Laguna Hills. Therefore, for land use plans, we are looking at the VMT per capita or for employees be greater than the city baseline. And for transportation projects, a significant impact would occur when there's an increase in the total VMT compared to a city baseline. And so once we've done the analysis and we've determined that a project exceeds the city baseline, then we're having to look at mitigation measures to be able to lower that VMT to be less than our city baseline. And these mitigation measures would include things such as bicycle parking or adding a shower changing room or doing electric charging stations. And then for offset example, these are talking about traffic calming measures or dedicated bike lanes. But if an applicant cannot utilize mitigation to reduce their baseline, then we're required to adopt a statement of overriding considerations and would need to do this within the envelope of environmental impact report. So with that, we just want to conclude that we really worked on these guidelines to meet state law, but while also exercising local discretion. And we hope that this is to provide the most simplified and direct approach for both staff and the public to utilize. And so with that, we are recommending that the City Council adopt this resolution 2020-1345 for the inclusion of these thresholds. And John Morgan and I are here tonight to be able to answer any questions if you have, or we also have our consultant, Sean Daly with Iteris, on the speaker who could help us with some technical questions if you have any. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much for your presentation. Let me ask my city council colleagues to ask questions, and then once we conclude our discussions over the dais, then we're going to go to the public comments if we have any, and then we are going to make the final decision on this item. I'm going to start with Councilmember John Mark Jennings.
Thank you. Do you want us to do questions and comments now, or I have comments, but I just had
Comments first.
I just had a couple of questions for staff, and I think they're easy. They won't take but a second. I understood that because our VMT average is higher in Laguna Niguel, that actually provides us a net benefit. Sounds like it would be a negative, but because our baseline is set higher, that gives us a little bit more flexibility in the types of projects that we do, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I thought that would be easy. The other one is there anything stopping us from also doing an LOS analysis on any future EIR if we wanted to? Because the only thing anyone ever yells about in Laguna Niguel is traffic and congestion. And so we get that all the time, and this just isn't going to analyze that sufficiently. And I can already see the public comment hearings that we're going to have on that I won't be a part of in all future development projects, and we're just not going to have those kind of answers. So I don't know if that's stopping us from also doing that analysis.
No, it is not stopping us because that's we will still be utilizing level of service analysis for the review of projects. It won't be included as part of the CEQA requirement, but it will be still included as for the review.
Do we have the authority to reject a project for an insufficient LOS then? I mean, it's part of, I know it's part of our city analysis, but
through our general, through the review of a project for consistency with our general plan, we would have that latitude, but not under the CEQA umbrella, as Erica mentioned. So no longer would LOS be a baseline to be used for CEQA analysis. It would have to be done under the auspice of general plan conformity.
And does our general plan allow for that?
It does. It is a performance standard baked into our general plan.
Yeah, I know our general plan is slightly out of date. Is there changes that need to be made to that?
The existing general plan and its LOS requirements still would be applicable.
Okay.
Our general plan obviously is rather dated, but those provisions still apply.
Okay.
So for larger projects, you're going to see a combination of both. You're going to see both an LOS assessment and a VMT assessment.
That's great. Thanks. That's all the questions I had. I have some comments later if you want to.
Very good. Councilmember Elaine Genoway.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. John Morgan, you may have answered my question that I was going to ask, but I'm looking at the map with the low VMT area, And that goes into, and maybe I should haven't put my glasses on, but it looks like it goes into the gateway area. So is that a conflict? I mean, it's low VMT, but I know that's been an area of concern with our residents, that the traffic generated from that development there would present a lot of congestion in our city. So how does that work? How does that play out where you have two different measurements that you could use in the same area?
Yeah, they are separate, but also included in our gateway specific plan is requirements for project specific traffic studies, including, without getting into the particulars, there's certain modeling that needs to be done that is not impacted by VMT analysis whatsoever. So this is essentially in addition to everything we already do.
Okay.
To kind of layer on some of the comments earlier made, these are essentially state mandates that are above and beyond what we normally have done traditionally.
Okay, thank you. And just one other question. I noticed that some of the ways that you can mitigate this are maybe amenities provided by the building. You talked about showers and changing rooms and things like that. How do you know that that's going to continue with that project? How is there any guarantee, or is it condition of approval that whoever develops that property or that project needs to continue with those mitigation measures?
Yes, so absolutely. So as a part of any project, those would be either, let's just assume for a moment that the project went through the traffic modeling and it was determined that mitigation measures were necessary to reduce the project's VMT. Those would be managed or imposed as conditions of approval or mitigation measures if it's tied to, let's say, a mitigated negative declaration or an EIR. So yes, they would be something that would be assigned to the project in order for them to manage that VMT.
And if the project then changed owners, it would carry with the project.
Yes, that's correct. So for any project transfer, all existing conditions of approval would be assigned to that new owner. It follows the project, not necessarily the underlying owner.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. That's all.
Councilmember Sandy Rains.
So I just want to clarify that even though the state guidelines are looser, that our adoption is being a little bit more conservative in the way that we calculate our basis for future development in the city, so that because we do have the biggest complaint in our city is traffic and more traffic and more traffic. So I just want to verify that the way we've done this is within staying with the guidelines. We are still being much more conservative with our recommendations as opposed to the state guidelines.
So yes, I mean, I guess if you look at it from the community's perspective, what they're really most notably concerned with is just traffic delay and impacts at intersections. So this is not undermining our efforts to continue to analyze and assess that. That is something that's always going to be a part of our evaluation. But separately, we do have to look at vehicle miles traveled based on the state law. What we've elected to do with our guidelines is really to provide a little bit more flexibility than otherwise would be assigned. So the state essentially has come up with some guidelines. It's kind of a one size fits all. We feel based on the particular character of our community, we have, through a series of justifications in working with ITERIS, have come up with some other standards that provide more flexibility for our development community. But it doesn't relieve them of the requirement of doing the traditional level of service analysis, where we're essentially grading intersection operations like a letter grade from A to F. So that will not change.
And in contrast with that, I'm assuming that it's also not imposing more costs on developers so that they don't want to come here and help us to continue to improve our communities.
We've exercised as much discretion as we possibly can to create modeling and essentially waivers so that it isn't requiring more than would otherwise be required elsewhere. So I think we've created as much flexibility we're at that outer limit of what we feel is justifiable based on the character of our community. So to answer your question, we've tried to make it as developer friendly as possible for the modeling.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we go to the public comments, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I did have a meeting with the city staff to go over all these items strictly as a practitioner to see how we are doing compared with other cities in Orange County and compared with the 481 other cities in California. I'm very pleased that tonight we are going to be ratifying the new law of the land for the city of Laguna Niguel. But let me reflect back on what my colleagues, Councilmember Sandy Raines and also Councilmember John Mark Jennings said. Suburban cities such as Laguna Niguel would be hurt inevitably because we don't have that many places of businesses. We have to drive from this city to other cities. We have to go to LA. We have to go to other counties, maybe Riverside County, San Bernardino, San Diego County. Therefore, we are going to be generating a lot of trips because the new law, Senate Bill 743, is strictly based on vehicle miles traveled. Therefore, people that live in suburban areas of this great state would be penalized. But it's the new law of the land in California. It was delayed a couple of times because of a lot of businesses, a lot of building, a lot of people protested. I was involved with a lot of those public hearings from a technical and also from a legal perspective. But we are where we are. We have to, as a city, as a municipal corporation, we have to ratify, we have to have the new measures for businesses, for residents, and for anybody that want to come here and do business with us. Therefore, we cannot undo anything. We cannot change what the Office of Planning Research in Sacramento has been doing, has been spearheading. Therefore, I'm very pleased overall with the way the resolution has been written, because we as a city, we as a municipal corporation is reserving that right with regard to LOS and delays. Those are the two measures, those are the two metrics that when it comes down to traffic and congestion, we can exercise as a city. So yes, we cannot use it under the California Environmental Quality Act. It's illegal to use LOS and delay for the environmental review process, environmental impact statement, environmental impact report, federal and state are also included in that category. Therefore, but we can use it as a land use measure. We can use it as a general plan item. So that's where the city staff can use a magnifying glass to look at any proposed new development in this great city, that the potential impact would be reduced and proper mitigations would be in place. And by the way, this is we call it Bible in our line of business. These are all the mitigation measures that, let me get it right, that California Air Pollution Control Officers Association has created effective August 2010. But it was delayed because a lot of places said this is very difficult to comprehend, it's very difficult to manage, it's very difficult to administer, and it's very difficult to enforce. When it comes down to a new development, what's going to happen? We're going to impose a conditional use permit. A condition on the item that goes to the planning commission, and then it comes to the city council if it's appealed or for the final ratification. Therefore, it has created a lot of dynamics. This is good for those cities that have a lot of excellent mass transit. They have transit stations within half a mile. They have beautiful corridor with transit frequencies, at all-time high. Yeah, this is going to help them. But for cities like us and a lot of South Orange County cities, is not going to. But because it's the law of the land, we wanted to adhere as a law-abiding city to go with other cities. So, and I'm happy that this was supposed to be done, July 1st, 2020, but we are where we are. And as it was brought to me that we're one of the pioneers, correct, in South Orange County by taking this thing, bringing it to the city council so we can discuss it and we can make a vote on this item. Just for the residents, page 8 of the draft transportation assessment guidelines would be a critical one, and that's the one that my colleague council member Elaine Genoway had a specific question with regard to the map. That's a very crucial map in every city. We need to identify the TAZs, traffic analysis zones, and also we need to have, those screening lines so people, residents, businesses, consultants would clearly know that if the proposed project happens to be within those low TAZs or low areas that would generate vehicle miles of travel. So page 8 of this item would be very critical with that, because some projects, because of their size, because of their land use type, because of their density, because of proximity to transit, i.e. Metrolink train station that we have in this city, would be exempt. So they're going to be screened out of the process, and that's a good news. And this is going to, by the way, help a lot of small businesses. This is going to encourage a lot of small residential developments as long as they comply and conform with those minimums that have been established by the Office of Planning Research of the governor, and also because of the specific sections of Senate Bill 743. So with that, I wanted to open up the public comments. Madam City Clerk.
First, you just need to open the public hearing, and then we'll.
The public hearing is open.
Thank you. And there are no public comments for this item.
The public comments is closed. Very good.
I do have some comments.
Councilmember John Moore Jennings.
Thank you. I wanted to save these comments. I'm torn, so stay with me for a second. On one hand, I'm extraordinarily pleased that the city and our consultants have come up with what I think is probably going to be the archetype for how this is going to be done. I wouldn't be at all surprised if other cities don't start using that. It's well done. It is pushing the outer boundaries of allowability, but I think that we're inside those markers, so I have no problem with what you're proposing. I'll put that in a box and set it aside for a second. Now I vent. I've been against this law since the day that it was proposed. I still think it's a terrible idea. It denies almost everything that is relevant to local control. It is the antithesis of everything that we hear from our residents regarding traffic and congestion and the things that they find important. And the fact that we happen to have the ability to continue listening to that is good for us, but bad as a piece of law. It is the very definition of an unfunded mandate. We were talking about those a second ago. I mean, I didn't get any money for this in our budget, and we certainly didn't have any to pay Iteris and all the others that are going to help us with this and all the analysis that's going to come. And I suspect it's created an entire industry around trying to figure out VMT. What it really did is it stopped the development of housing in outer urban areas. So when you're talking about the Inland Empire and their availability of land and the cheap and the comparative cost effectiveness of building out there, it ruined that as an opportunity, because if those people happen to be traveling into Orange County, then VMT is not going to allow those developments to go forward. And so what they're really trying to do, and you have to pair this with a couple of other laws, RENA is one of them, they're really trying to push infill. Their efforts last year through Senator Wiener's several bills to eliminate single-family residence zoning, SFR zoning in California, is another attempt to eliminate what we call normal down here and probably lots of other places. But if you're in a place where you have a strip mall and you want to rezone that, you can do that, and suddenly higher density housing is now allowed there, and VMT would sort of force that issue rather than the opposite, even if there were all these other traffic implications. So I think it's an inherently bad law. I think it's almost comical that the only mitigation factors that they were able to round up, I haven't read your Bible yet, Fred, but if the only ones they cite to in the law that we got are bicycles and electric charging stations, I don't think we fully thought through the full impact of that. I mean, LA's been screaming about this forever, that bicycle lanes are just not relevant in cities that you have to travel 15 minutes by car at 60 miles an hour to get to. It just doesn't work that way. So, and nor do I see anybody taking full advantage of that. So I think this is it's a bad idea. I talked to the city manager today about trying to do what are my options here? What can I do? And I was proposing putting in some type of whereas paragraph into the resolution that stated some of this sort of pushback that Sacramento's got us again. We don't have any choice. We're doing the right thing, but this is not our decision. She always does, gives me wise counsel to put fewer things in writing and just yell about them. So that's not a bad idea. So I think I'll do that. But the thing that I found that was probably most distasteful about VMT was their effort at socioeconomic gerrymandering of our zoning laws. And I'd like to say that I'm taking some radical position, but I'm reading it right out of the VMT laws that they are attempting to fix gerrymandering problems with this law. And it's the exact opposite of what government ought to be doing. If they would just get out of the way and let us solve these problems, I think we would have a much better opportunity to fix it. At least I know this city would, and I suspect that many other like-minded cities might try to do that. So I think it's wrong-headed. It's actually somewhat offensive. It doesn't fix the problem. And when you tack on RENA on top of this, RENA being the requirement that we build X number of housing inside our cities, this just creates infill congestion without the reality of the level of service, the congestion that everybody wants to talk about, even being relevant in that. So thank God Laguna Niguel is doing something to try to fix it. But as a mitigating factor, it's a little bit, but it's not enough. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments, reflections by city council colleagues?
Ditto. I think that's all that needs to be said is ditto. But again, this is why we talk about local control. And what it is Sacramento is telling us here, the elected leaders for Laguna Niguel, that we don't know what's best for you. When we do, we are part of the community. We know what the problems are in our community. We know traffic and congestion is an issue that concerns our residents. But now that measurement that measures congestion is not what's going to be looked at. I mean, we can look at it from a city standpoint, but the state is saying now VMT. Well, that's something completely different. It is social reengineering. It is saying, have showers and changing rooms at work, bike lanes, electric charge, all this stuff that is not congestion, not how many cars are on a certain part of the road at a certain time during the day. So, and I summed it up today where I said, oh, so we're replacing congestion with Green New Deal. I mean, that's what it is. But having said that, I do commend staff for coming up for, if we have to do it, this is, I think, an excellent model. So thank you very much. And again, ditto.
Councilmember Sandy Rains?
Yeah, ditto, double ditto. But it is challenging when we as a community know what we want, and we are faced with the options of we must build so many housing units, we must build so many that are this way, and now we're being forced to also take away our traffic measures that we usually use when we're approving projects. So it makes our job more difficult to serve our community, and yet this is what we're faced with and that we have to do. So when you start sending all those emails about traffic and projects and everything, just remember today that we had to do this because Sacramento told us to. Thank you.
Very good. Can I have a motion to approve public hearing item number 1?
I'll make a motion to move it.
Okay, it was made by Councilmember Sandy Rains.
Yeah, second.
Seconded by Councilmember Elaine Genoway. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Can I vote under duress? Is that an option? I think we're all voting under duress, but yes.
So noted.
Very
Thank
good.
Yeah, put it in the record, won't you? So-
Carried 4-0 with Mayor Lori Davies being absent.
Yeah, we do want to see that in the minutes, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I
Yes,
reflect
under
that in the
duress.
minutes today. That's the only thing I got. It's under duress, right? So
Got it.
thank you.
All right, this concludes our public hearing. We will now move on to discussion item number 1, and this is the strategic plan Laguna Niguel 2050, the pursuit of happiness. 1-year update, City Manager Letourneau, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to present to you this evening the 1-year update of the strategic plan. It is really hard to believe it was just a year ago that the strategic plan was adopted. And it is this strategic plan that has guided the policy decisions, the administrative decisions, and financial decisions in the city for the last 12 months. Effective strategic plans are ones where the goals are incorporated into every decision with very specific intention and a vision towards the future. It is critical to continue to review progress and make adjustments to account for things that change along the way. Speaking of change, we never could have imagined that in a few short months following the adoption of the strategic plan, we would be faced with a global pandemic, which we are still in the middle of. The onset of the pandemic caused the immediate decrease in revenues, which resulted in a reduction of both full-time and part-time staff. But even with the changes we face this year, we have a long list of accomplishments to be very proud of, which further the council's 6 goals, which are public safety, fiscal sustainability, open space and environmental preservation, infrastructure and technology, communication, and community outreach. Of the 44 strategies, there are 4 that have been completed to date, 20 that are ongoing or in process, 9 that remain on schedule but have due dates in the years ahead, and 11 that were delayed due to COVID. Attached to this staff report tonight are the implementation action plans for each goal. However, I want to highlight a few of these and point them out in the next few slides. First-year accomplishments include the implementation of the 115 Trust to fund city pension liability, completion of our pavement management plan, we amended the nuisance provisions of the municipal code. We established on-call consultants in community development. We adopted a balanced budget for 2020-2021 and implemented the city's first goat grazing weed abatement program at several parks. In response to the global pandemic, the city distributed over $197,000 in additional CDBG block grant funds to Family Assistance Ministries, South County Outreach, and Mercy House to help the residents with food, paying for utilities, and housing assistance. We established our economic recovery team to assist businesses through the challenges and the impacts of COVID. We expanded our senior mobility program to provide additional transportation services to seniors, and we enhanced our outdoor dining opportunities for restaurants and shared space opportunities for additional businesses with the approval of a temporary use permit process. We also established a new website and enhanced our social media presence on every platform that we have. Regarding the CIP, we've completed the following: Alicia Parkway to Highlands Avenue to Pacific Park Drive resurfacing, the Crown Valley Park Tier 3 project, the new community center, Metrolink bollard lighting replacements, Metrolink station groundwater pumps replacement, Crown Valley Park soccer field synthetic turf replacement, automatic door lock installation at several park restrooms, LED signal indicator replacements, and accessible pedestrian signal push button installation, which is an annual program. So I want to highlight for you some of our ongoing projects, there are many more, but I just picked out a few to share. Streamlining the development review process, enhancing technology surveillance, increasing public education for our trails and open space. Some examples of things that were delayed because of COVID-19 are public safety community workshop, the park needs study, our general plan update, and our homeowners association outreach in-person programs. Oops. Sensitive. So as we go ahead into year 2, we will be having a workshop with the City Council in early 2021 to review the strategies and refine our timelines. And we will be continuing to provide updates. We've been keeping our website strategic plan section up to date as we've gone forward. So and we will put this information and make sure it is maintained up there as well, so the public can track how we're doing and what's coming in future years as part of our achievement of our goals. So that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Questions? Comments?
To comment.
I had,
Councilmember Elaine Genoway
thank you. I don't know if
is
you were looking at
recognized
me.
as a ranking
Okay.
member of the City Council. Is
Okay.
recognized.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Okay. Well, spent a lot of time with City Manager Letourneau going over this. So thank you for the time on the review. I had some, in the weeds questions, which you are always great at answering. And I just think it's fantastic that we have the strategic plan. When we see our staff reports, the reports that the City Council receives on all of the items in the agenda, it does refer us back to what section of the strategic plan that is under, so that we know this is still within the scope of the direction that the City Council has given. So I know that it's disappointing that some things have been delayed due to COVID, but greatly appreciate your keeping us updated along the way of those delays and why that may have happened or may be necessary. So it's not any surprise to us. So I just want our residents to know it's not a surprise to us that there are items that have been delayed. It was necessitated by the challenge of COVID-19, but we are still on track, and I look forward to the workshop in early 21. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember John Mark Jennings.
Just wanted to say thank you. A lot of things were surprises this year. I wouldn't have guessed last year when we were doing this that I wouldn't be around for more years of this. So I'm grateful that it's here. I'm grateful that it's in place. I commend the staff on a tremendous CIP. I mean, that's quite a list. It didn't take long to go through it, but my goodness, there's a lot on that list, and I appreciate all that's done. The only thing that I would encourage future councils just to look at it, to pay attention to it, to update it, to go through this process as often as they feel necessary to make sure that it's still on point. And I think it at least expresses from this council to all future councils a little bit of who we are and why we are. And that's preserving your legacies is an important thing. So I'm glad that it's here. So thank you very much for all that. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Councilmember Sandy Rains.
Excuse me. This has been really an incredible year. We've had so many different challenges, and thinking back to not having a strategic plan to now having it. Thanks for the foresight on that, Councilmember Jennings. It's really been something that we've been able to direct through this challenging year and stay focused on the things that were important to our city and our community. So I'm very grateful to have it. And I promise moving forward, as long as I'm here, that we'll continue to use it as our guideline. Because I think it's been an incredible tool for us to use, and looking forward that we'll continue to use it. So thank you.
Thank you. Just the final thoughts and reflections. Having served this city for 24 years, we never had a roadmap. We never had a compass. With this strategic plan that was prepared this year, for the first time, we know where we're going to go to. We know where we're going to be. And we are valuing what is the most critical, crucial elements to the citizens of this great city, what they value the most. And then we, as the elected officials, we have the fiduciary obligations to carry those that the residents and citizens of this great city have, voted for us to be here. So with this strategic plan, we have a toolbox. And again, we have a beautiful, great roadmap to follow. And it's going to help all the city staff to know what we are going to be doing next year and beyond. So with that, do I have a motion to approve this, or this is only for
Just to
discussion
receive and
item?
file. Mhm.
Okay,
Do you need a motion to receive and file?
just a motion for
I'll make a
receive and
motion to
file.
receive.
That would be
and file.
great.
All right, it was initiated by Councilmember John Mark Jennings,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Elaine Genoway. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's carried unanimously, 4-0. Well, thank you, and this concludes our discussions on this item. So we will now move on to council reports and city manager report. I want to start off with Council Member Sandy Rains this time.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to start off by saying thank you so much for trusting me and reelecting me for another 4 years to serve this beautiful community. I'm very honored for that. The next thing I wanted to talk about is this yesterday's announcement from the governor about going back to purple tier has really, I'm sure, knocked a lot of people down quite a few notches, especially our business community. And I just want you to know that we are here for you. We are going to be here for you, and we'll do whatever we can to support you through this process. Please make sure you reach out if you need anything. Navigating through the rules, the system, whatever it is that you might need, there will be answers here at the city for you. We have your back. With that being said, the Chamber of Commerce is hosting their annual Shop Local, where you get your receipts starting from November 15th at any local business here in the city or any chamber business that is a chamber member of Laguna Niguel Chamber, even if they're not in the city. And if you turn your receipts in, I think from November 15th, I think it goes through December 31st, they do drawings and give away some fabulous things after the first of the year. So please remember to shop local, shop often, stay here in Laguna Niguel and spend your money here. And really appreciate that. And then just a quick update from Southern California Edison. I just wanted to give this information out that Edison will not disconnect anyone's bill for failure to pay. And if you have been charged late fees, all you have to do is call Southern California Edison and ask that they be removed from your bill, and they will do that. They're waiving all late fees. And they also have an Edison Scholar STEM scholarship up to $40,000. So for students who are looking for scholarships right now, I'm sure a lot of them are in that time frame. I'm so glad I'm past those days. But anyhow, it's a 3.0 GPA, and you must show some financial need. So you can go to the Southern California Edison website and get more information on that. And it's called the Edison Scholars. So that's what I have for tonight. Thank you very much.
Councilmember John Mark Jennings.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I neglected to say welcome to Erica. Thank you for that tonight. Well done on that. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. So good to hear. I've never heard of Lisa Viejo. I will look that up. I love you guys. So just in case you're looking, words often provide little benefit in attempting to describe something as complex as our recent national elections. And what is more certain is that there is a great expanse and a divide in our country and our state and our community that for the sake of our democracy, I think we have to be intentional about repairing. Laguna Niguel historically been a place of relative political tranquility in the sea of what could only be called California's turbulent political waters. I'm hopeful that we can maintain or maybe even return to just such a place. Our tomorrows are best mastered when we work together for the benefit of everyone, and the seeds of division must never be given a chance to take root here, especially in Laguna Niguel. As nonpartisans on the city council, our tent is wide and welcoming to all who come with good intentions and worthy ideas. And the vast majority of us live our lives in the wide expanse of agreement and compromise, and we must do all that we can to foster an enduring sense of community and our love for our neighbors. I wanted to say thank you to everyone who ran for city council. I understand that was quite a thing, and I have been on all sides of that equation, both winning and losing. So I understand your sacrifices and your feelings about that. I especially want to say congratulations to those that came out on the winning side, to Kelly, who I tell her congratulations all the time, but I haven't got to say congratulations to Sandy. So congratulations and well done. And I'm sure Rishi's probably watching, and congratulations to you, sir. And I wish you all the extraordinary very best. And I commend to you this council, which I think you'll do a great job with. And that's it. I think that there's a real chance to do some great things here in Laguna Niguel, and for that future council, I'm very excited to get to watch. I get to now watch at home. Kelly's watched me for 4 years, every one of these from on TV, but now I get to do the watching. So it'll be great, and I'm really glad it's in your good hands, and I appreciate all that you've done. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Elaine Genoway.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just two comments. First of all, I want to remind our residents the buzzword for tonight and for every day you're here in Laguna Niguel is local control. Please pay attention to that. When you hear other electeds, other politicians, other policymakers talking, we always want to bring it back to local control so that here in the city that we can be making the decisions that affect the people's lives who live here. Every community should have that mandate of local control, not having someone else make the decisions. So please perk your ears up to that and pay attention to when other policymakers are trying to take it away from us. And that is something that we need to protect. So, and it takes everybody in our state and our community to be doing that. So local control, we say it all the time, but I want that to be the watchword for our residents as well. And then finally, I'd just like to close my comments tonight with wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I know this year Thanksgiving may be celebrated a little bit differently than you usually do, but I do wish you a very happy and blessed time with your family, whether it be just a few of you gathered around the table, or if you're calling people on the phone or greeting them via Zoom, or maybe waving across front yards or driveways. We have a lot to be thankful for here in Laguna Niguel. Even though there are some things we complained about tonight, we are truly thankful for our community, for all our residents, and wish all of you a happy, very, very happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I wanted to congratulate our colleague, Councilmember Sandy Rains, for getting reelected. And also, I wanted to use this this time to also congratulate the newly elected council members, Kelly Jennings and Rishi Sharma. People of Laguna Niguel have spoken. We honor and we respect the top 3 vote getters by the people of this great city, regardless of the party line. As my colleague, Councilmember Mark Jennings mentioned, this is a nonpartisan position. So I'm very happy to join my colleague to welcome the 2 newly elected and 1 re-elected council member during the next city council meeting. And also, I also wanted to congratulate our sitting mayor, Lori Davies, for getting elected as the new assembly lady for the 73rd district. With that, just 2 other comments. I attended the Orange County Transportation Authority South Orange County Transportation Study Zoom that there were quite a few elected officials present during the presentation. We heard about the potential plans, programs that OCTA is trying to obtain public comments, new ideas, how they can improve the transportation infrastructure in South Orange County. And I was honored to be invited to sit with Mayor of Sacramento, Darrell Steinberg, who happens to be, by the way, the author of SB 743 VMT on a statewide basis. I talked about pros and cons, even though I was sitting next to him via Zoom. But, I had a different take on it. There are pros, and at the same time, there are cons with the new law. So it was a very respectful and educated type of discussions among 2 of us and some other practitioners, and I'm happy that it went pretty well. I also attended some of the meetings at Orange County Council of Governments and the Transportation Corridor Agency. Just the takeaway is that the RHNA, Regional Housing Needs Assessment, that the deadline for submitting comments is December 10, 2020. And I talked to the legal counsel of Southern California Association of Governments, and they told me that as of today, they have received 52 appeals Now, we have to put in perspective, SCAG covers about 6 counties. It covers about 191 cities. So there are 52 appeals. That remains to be seen. How the state agency in Sacramento, I'm talking about the Department of Housing, how they are going to be screening, evaluating all these appeals. We don't know that yet. That remains to be seen. How they are going to be responding to those at our next regional council meeting that I believe we don't have a meeting. We are dark in December. So we're talking about the first Thursday of the month of January next year. And also, this is something interesting that, you know, the requirements from Sacramento, from CARB, California Air Resources Board, and EPA, California EPA, which is Environmental Protection Agency for the state, they're mandating that we have to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 19% by the year 2025. If we don't achieve that, well, the federal funding would be jeopardized and they may not be providing those funding to us. That remains to be seen. Because of COVID-19, there were some blessings with regard to the emissions into the air, but that remains to be seen because that item is pretty much fluid at this time. So with that, I conclude my comments and I wanted to turn it to our city manager, Tammy Letourneau.
Thank you. I am pleased to share with you that the city has received the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement in Excellence for Financial Reporting for our CAFR, ending June 30th of 2019. And just in case anybody doesn't know, this Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of government, accounting, and financial reporting. So congratulations to all the staff and the Finance Department on that outstanding work. It is really special to receive this award, and we're really lucky. So that's all. That concludes my
Wow,
report.
that
I
was
just
a
have great
short
news tonight.
remark. Very good. We are now adjourned at 8:20 p.m. Thank you and stay well.